You ever notice how the loudest person in the room usually has the least control? The one who reacts first talks the most, explodes over nothing. They always end up losing power without even realizing it. The truth is, the most dangerous person you'll ever meet is not the one who gets angry, not the one who shouts, not the one who tries to prove something. It's the one who stays calm, the one who listens, the one who smiles, while everyone else loses their composure. Because calmness is not weakness, it's control. And control is power. Most people think emotional control is about pretending you don't feel anything. It's not. It's about mastering how and when you express it. The difference between people who succeed and those who sabotage themselves isn't intelligence. It's not talent. It's the ability to manage their emotions under pressure. Think about it. How many times have you seen someone destroy their reputation in seconds just because they couldn't control a reaction? How many arguments have spiraled out of control because one person had to win instead of understanding? That's the price of emotional immaturity. You lose what truly matters to defend what doesn't. Self-control and emotional intelligence are not soft skills. They are power skills. They decide who stays standing when everything else falls apart. They determine who leads the room, who earns respect, and who crumbles under the weight of their own emotions. The people who master themselves, they move differently. They're not easily provoked. They don't respond to every insult or challenge. They understand that silence can be more intimidating than shouting, and stillness can be more commanding than aggression. So let me ask you, what happens when you stop letting your emotions run you? What happens when you learn to read people instead of reacting to them? What happens when you become unshakable? That's when everything changes. Because real strength isn't found in dominance. It's found in discipline. It's when you can look chaos in the eye and still keep your center. That's not just emotional intelligence. That's power evolved. Power is not what most people think it is. It's not found in domination, control over others, or loud declarations of authority. Real power is quiet. It's deliberate. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to announce itself because it's too busy being centered, composed, and in command. The moment you lose control of yourself, you hand your power over to someone else. Every time you react impulsively, you're telling the world, you own my emotions. But when you learn to control your inner world, the outer world starts to fall in line. There's something magnetic about a person who stays calm when everyone else is losing it. You can feel it. You walk into a room full of chaos, and there's that one person who's composed, not cold, but steady. People are drawn to that energy because it's rare. Most people are in survival mode, reacting to every word, every tone, every comment on social media, every perceived slight. Their emotions drive them like a storm, tossing them from one reaction to another. But the person who has self-control, that person is the eye of the storm, still unbothered and clear. The truth is, self-control is the foundation for everything: discipline, confidence, emotional intelligence, and respect. You can't build anything lasting without it. Think about a leader, a negotiator, or even a parent. If they can't control their emotions, they can't lead. The moment someone else can trigger you, they control you. That's the irony. People believe reacting proves strength when in reality, it exposes weakness. The one who reacts first usually loses. When you train yourself to stay calm under pressure, you gain time, and time is power. You get to think before you speak. You get to choose the right response instead of regretting an impulsive reaction. And most importantly, you preserve your energy for what truly matters. Because the truth is, emotional reactions drain power. Every argument, every outburst, every overreaction costs energy. Imagine how much of your focus, creativity, and peace you lose when you allow others to provoke you. That's why self-control isn't just emotional maturity. It's strategic living. There will always be moments that test you. Disrespect, rejection, betrayal, disappointment. The world will give you endless opportunities to lose your cool. But each time you stay composed, you're teaching yourself resilience. You're building an inner fortress brick by brick. When people can't get a reaction out of you, they lose influence over you. When they can't shake you, they start to respect you. And when they respect you, they stop trying to control you. Most people want to be respected, but few are willing to do what it takes to earn it. And it starts here, with emotional self-mastery. Respect is not demanded, it's commanded through your presence. And presence comes from composure. When your emotions are in check, your energy becomes stable, and stable energy is intimidating because it's unpredictable. You're no longer readable. No one can tell what will trigger you because nothing does. That unpredictability creates leverage. Think about it. How many situations could you have handled better if you had just paused? How many arguments would have ended differently if you had chosen silence instead of reacting? Sometimes the greatest demonstration of strength is restraint. Not because you're afraid to fight, but because you know you don't need to. You've outgrown the need to prove a point. You understand that people who try to provoke you are revealing more about their own lack of control than about you. They're trying to pull you into their storm because they can't handle your calm. Self-control isn't suppression. It's mastery. Suppression is pretending you're fine when you're not. Mastery is acknowledging the emotion, understanding it, and choosing the most effective way to express it. There's a difference between feeling anger and letting anger speak for you. There's a difference between being hurt and weaponizing that pain. The emotionally weak lash out. The emotionally strong channel it. They take that energy and use it as fuel, for focus, for growth, for purpose. You'll start to notice a shift when you practice this. People will respond differently. Some will respect you more. Others will feel uncomfortable because your composure exposes their lack of it. But that's okay. You're not here to make people comfortable. You're here to rise above the noise. Every time you choose calm over chaos, you separate yourself from the masses. The world is full of people who act on impulse. Few can sit in silence and let things unfold without forcing an outcome. That's what makes self-control such a rare and powerful trait. It's not common, and that's exactly why it commands attention. When you understand that your emotions are not your enemies but your messengers, everything changes. They're trying to tell you something, that you care, that you're threatened, that something feels unjust. But emotions are information, not instruction. They don't tell you what to do. They tell you what's happening inside you. It's your job to interpret that message, not to let it dictate your behavior. The greatest power in the world is not controlling others. It's controlling yourself when everything in you wants to explode. It's when you can walk away from provocation without losing dignity. It's when you can be right but still choose peace. That's when you become untouchable, because the person who cannot be provoked cannot be manipulated. So, start with the smallest battles. The moment you want to argue back, pause. When someone insults you, breathe. When life throws chaos at you, step back and observe instead of reacting. Each small act of restraint builds an empire of control inside you. And over time, that control becomes unshakable. The quiet power of self-control doesn't need applause. It doesn't seek validation. It simply radiates authority. You walk differently. You speak slower. You listen more. People notice even if they don't understand it. And deep down, they respect it. Because what's rarer than talent, what's stronger than anger, what's more attractive than charm, is calmness under pressure. That's the silent power that separates those who merely survive from those who lead. There's a moment, a split second, between what happens to you and how you respond to it. That moment is everything. It's the space between chaos and control, between regret and wisdom, between weakness and power. Most people never see that moment because they've trained themselves to react, not to respond. But those who learn to pause, even for a breath, begin to master not just their emotions, but their entire lives. Reactions are impulsive. They are emotional reflexes, automatic and unfiltered. Someone insults you and you snap back. You feel disrespected and you raise your voice. You're afraid and you shut down. It's the brain's natural defense. To protect, to retaliate, to survive. But survival mode is not where strength lives. Strength is born in the space after the trigger. That heartbeat of stillness where you decide who you want to be instead of letting emotion decide for you. The pause is not passive. It's not weakness. It's the highest form of control. Because in that pause, you're saying, I see what's happening, but I choose how I'll respond. You're not being dragged by the wave. You're learning to ride it. People often mistake calmness for indifference, but it's not that you don't care. It's that you've learned that not every battle deserves your energy, and not every emotion deserves your reaction. When you react, you're controlled by emotion. When you respond, you control emotion. That difference defines the outcome of almost every situation in life. Conversations, relationships, negotiations, arguments, even your inner dialogue. The ability to pause gives you clarity. It allows logic to step in before emotion burns everything down. Because emotion without discipline is destruction, and clarity without emotion is cold. The power lies in balancing both. Think about the last time you reacted instantly to something that upset you. Maybe it was a text that felt disrespectful. Maybe someone dismissed your effort, interrupted you, or made a cutting remark. In that moment, your brain sent a signal: defend yourself. You felt heat rise in your chest, your pulse quickened, your jaw tightened. That's biology. But what you do next, that's choice. You can feed the emotion, or you can control the flame. The pause is where choice lives. A person who reacts quickly is predictable. You can be provoked, manipulated, even played, because people know your buttons. But when you learn to pause, you become unreadable. People can't tell what you're thinking, and that unsettles them. They can't steer your emotions because you don't hand them the wheel. You shift from being emotionally reactive to being emotionally strategic. That's where real confidence begins, not from loudness, but from control. The pause also reveals truth. When you take a moment before responding, you often see the real intention behind someone's words. Was it malice, insecurity, a test? Or was it just thoughtless noise? Emotional intelligence isn't just about managing your own feelings. It's about reading what's really going on in others. And you can't read what you're reacting to. You can only read what you're observing. The pause gives you that power to observe, to decode, to understand before acting. Some people think the pause will make them seem weak or slow, like they're unsure or hesitant. But it's the opposite. The pause makes you deliberate. Watch any master communicator, any strong leader. They don't rush their responses. They take a breath. They think. They speak with precision because they know every word carries weight, and once released, it can't be taken back. You'll never regret pausing, but you'll regret a reaction that can't be undone. To master the pause, you must train it like a muscle. Start small. When someone interrupts you, don't immediately cut in. Breathe. When you feel a surge of irritation, notice it instead of acting on it. When you get a message that stings, wait before replying. It feels unnatural at first because your emotions want to act. But with practice, the pause becomes instinctive. You start to feel the power of restraint. You start to enjoy your control. You begin to realize that calm is a weapon. The pause doesn't mean you don't feel emotion. It means you respect it enough to handle it wisely. You can still be passionate, assertive, even intense, but it's controlled fire, not wild flames. When you speak from a pause, your words carry more authority. When you move from calm intention instead of agitation, people listen differently. The pause commands respect because it shows discipline, and discipline is the language of power. Here's the truth: most people miss. Reactions are about ego. Responses are about intelligence. When you react, you're protecting your pride. When you respond, you're protecting your peace. The ego wants to win arguments. Intelligence wants to win outcomes. The ego needs to be right. Intelligence wants to be effective. The ego wants validation. Intelligence wants mastery. The pause gives you space to choose intelligence over ego every single time. Imagine living in such control that nothing and no one can pull you out of alignment. Imagine being able to witness chaos without becoming it. That's not fantasy. That's the result of mastering the pause. It's emotional detachment in motion. You're not numb, you're aware. You can feel anger without becoming angry. You can experience pain without turning it into bitterness. You can process emotions without being ruled by them. That's the difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is slavery, response is freedom. When you learn to pause, your entire energy shifts. People feel it. You walk into rooms differently. You stop explaining yourself so much. You stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop rushing to defend yourself against every accusation. You let your silence and composure speak louder than words. That's when your presence starts to intimidate the unbalanced, because they realize they can't shake what they can't control. And yes, the pause takes courage. It takes discipline to stay quiet when your emotions beg you to lash out. It takes self-respect to hold your energy when others are wasting theirs. It takes strength to breathe through discomfort instead of reacting to it. But every time you do, you're proving to yourself that you are not ruled by emotion. You are ruled by choice. The pause is your edge in every situation. Personal, professional, emotional. It's how you maintain composure under pressure, how you navigate difficult conversations, how you preserve relationships, and how you protect your peace. The person who can pause in a heated moment, who can observe before responding, holds the upper hand, not because they're colder, but because they're wiser. So, the next time life tests you, someone insults you, disrespects you, or tries to provoke you, don't give them what they want. Don't hand them your reaction. Pause. Breathe. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Because in that silence, power builds. And the longer you hold that pause, the more control you gain. That's the secret. The pause isn't empty space. It's strength contained. It's wisdom in motion. It's the invisible moment where the most powerful decision of your life is made. Will I let this control me, or will I control myself? When you master that, you don't just win arguments, you win yourself. Most people hear words, very few actually listen, and almost no one reads. But life isn't just about what people say, it's about what they mean, what they reveal in their pauses, their tone, their eyes, their body language. Emotional intelligence begins when you stop listening to respond and start observing to understand. It's when you realize that every person is communicating, even in silence. Every reaction, every gesture, every shift in energy tells a story. The question is, are you paying attention? To read people, you must first learn to read yourself. Because if you don't understand your own emotions, you'll project them onto others. If you're angry, you'll see hostility where there is none. If you're insecure, you'll perceive judgment in neutral faces. Your perception becomes filtered through your wounds. That's why emotional intelligence begins inward. It's not about manipulating people. It's about mastering awareness. It's the ability to step outside of your emotions and observe what's really happening. People who lack emotional intelligence live reactively. They respond to surface signals, a raised voice, a harsh word, a cold tone, without considering context. But emotionally intelligent people read the room. They can feel tension before it's spoken. They notice when someone's words and energy don't align. They understand that anger often hides fear, arrogance often hides insecurity, and indifference often hides pain. They look beneath the behavior. That's what separates the emotionally mature from the emotionally impulsive. The ability to decode, not just consume. In every interaction, there are two conversations happening, the one with words and the one with emotion. Words can lie, energy rarely does. Someone might say, "I'm fine," but their tone, their eyes, the hesitation in their breath all tell a different story. Emotional intelligence allows you to hear the truth behind the disguise. It's not about being suspicious. It's about being perceptive. When you can read emotion beneath language, you see the world with sharper eyes, and you avoid walking blindly into manipulation, conflict, or misunderstanding. But emotional intelligence isn't just about reading others. It's also about controlling how you are read, because when you understand how emotions influence perception, you learn how to communicate powerfully without saying much. You know how to de-escalate tension through tone. You understand that calm energy can neutralize aggression faster than confrontation. You realize that silence can disarm more effectively than argument. Emotionally intelligent people are aware of the emotional temperature of every interaction, and they know how to adjust theirs to influence, not to react. There's a deep strength in understanding emotion without being ruled by it. When someone lashes out at you, you don't take it personally. You see it for what it is. Pain speaking through anger. When someone withdraws, you don't assume rejection. You recognize discomfort or fear. You stop seeing others as enemies and start seeing them as humans responding to their own internal struggles. That awareness doesn't make you weak. It makes you strategic. You can connect deeper, negotiate better, and lead more effectively because you're not trapped in emotional noise. Think about people who have true presence. When they walk into a room, they don't demand attention, they command it. That's emotional intelligence in action. It's not about charisma. It's about regulation. They understand how to project calm, confidence, and respect without overpowering anyone. They know how to listen in a way that makes others feel seen. And when people feel seen, they soften. That's how influence works. It's not forced, it's felt. Reading people requires stillness. You can't observe clearly when your mind is loud. You have to slow down enough to notice the details. The flicker in someone's eyes when you mention a subject, the way their posture shifts when they're defensive, the change in tone when they're hiding something. These subtle cues reveal far more than words ever could. But you can't see them if you're always in a hurry to speak. The emotionally intelligent person values observation over expression. They know that information is power, and silence is how you gather it. Emotional intelligence also protects you from manipulation. When you can read intent, you stop falling for performance. You recognize charm as a strategy, not sincerity. You notice when someone compliments you to disarm you or uses vulnerability to gain sympathy. You understand the emotional game, not to play it, but to stay above it. You don't let flattery blind you or guilt control you. Because once you can see emotional patterns, you can't be easily played by them. But the highest level of emotional intelligence isn't about analyzing others. It's about empathy with boundaries. You can feel what others feel without absorbing it. You can care without carrying their emotional weight. That's emotional maturity, compassion without codependency. You listen deeply, but you don't lose yourself in their story. You understand pain without making it your own. You stay kind but firm, gentle but grounded. People can sense when your empathy is stable, when it's not fragile or desperate for approval, and they respect it. Emotional intelligence is what keeps relationships healthy, communication clear, and leadership effective. It's how you diffuse conflict instead of feeding it. It's how you know when to speak and when to stay silent. It's how you connect authentically without losing control. When you understand emotion, you no longer see disagreement as threat or criticism as attack. You learn to separate feedback from ego. You learn that not every emotional wave is yours to surf. Some are just signals passing through, and you can choose which ones to ride. When you cultivate emotional intelligence, you also cultivate peace. You stop needing to be understood all the time because you understand yourself. You stop taking things personally because you realize that most people's behavior is about them, not you. You stop matching other people's energy because you've built your own stable foundation. You don't absorb their chaos, you observe it. That's the shift, from reacting to reading, from absorbing to analyzing, from feeling lost in emotion to leading it. There's a quiet advantage that comes from this kind of awareness. It's not arrogance, it's insight. You can sense what's happening beneath the surface, and that allows you to make smarter decisions. You see potential conflict before it erupts. You notice opportunities others miss. You become more persuasive because you tailor your message to what people feel, not just what they hear. That's how emotionally intelligent people move through the world, not pushing harder, but reading deeper. So the next time you're in a conversation, slow down. Don't rush to respond. Watch. Listen beyond words. Notice the tone, the pauses, the shifts in breathing. Feel the energy of the room. Ask yourself, what's really being said here? What's not being said? That awareness is emotional intelligence in motion, the invisible force that separates those who merely communicate from those who truly connect. Because at the end of the day, it's not the smartest person who wins. It's the one who understands emotion, both their own and others. The one who can see beyond words, beyond reactions, beyond appearances. The one who knows that power isn't in speaking the loudest, but in understanding the deepest. That's emotional intelligence, the art of reading life itself. Discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you build. It's a muscle, forged in moments when your impulses beg you to give in, but you choose not to. It's the quiet, repetitive decision to stay in control when your emotions demand chaos. The people who appear effortlessly strong aren't immune to temptation or anger or laziness. They've just trained their minds to act with intention instead of impulse. And that training, that repetition, that restraint, that's where true freedom is born. Impulse is seductive. It feels good in the moment. It's that urge to say something sharp when someone disrespects you, to quit when things get hard, to take the easy way out because the harder path feels uncomfortable. But here's the truth: every time you act on impulse, you trade long-term growth for short-term relief. Discipline, on the other hand, is choosing discomfort now for strength later. It's saying, I will not be a slave to my feelings, because that's what impulse is, emotional slavery. Discipline is liberation. The mind works like a muscle. If you don't train it, it weakens. If you let every emotion or craving dictate your actions, your mental strength atrophies. But if you practice restraint, even in small moments, you start building endurance. The same way lifting weights breaks muscle fibers so they can rebuild stronger, discipline breaks emotional patterns so your mind can rebuild sharper. Every time you resist an impulse, you're training mental toughness. Every time you delay gratification, you're teaching your brain to wait, to think, to act from clarity instead of chaos. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It's built in silence. When you wake up early even though you don't feel like it, when you choose to listen instead of react, when you stick to your word long after motivation fades. Motivation is fleeting, discipline is permanent. Motivation depends on mood, discipline depends on principle. You can't rely on feeling ready. You must train yourself to act regardless of how you feel. That's what separates the consistent from the chaotic. Impulse will always tempt you because it's fast. It promises instant satisfaction. Say it now, eat it now, buy it now, quit now. But impulse has no foresight. It only knows this moment. Discipline, however, plays the long game. It says, wait, observe, think ahead. The impulse says, I want comfort. Discipline says, I want growth. The impulse says, I want to win now. Discipline says, I want to win always. That small internal battle happens dozens of times a day, and each time you choose discipline, you strengthen your control. People often think discipline makes life harder. The opposite is true. Discipline makes life easier because it removes confusion. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking, should I, shouldn't I? You already decided who you are. Discipline simplifies your choices. It turns chaos into clarity. The impulsive mind constantly shifts with emotion, but the disciplined mind follows a clear code. You know what matters, what deserves energy, and what doesn't. That's why disciplined people appear calm. They're not fighting internal battles anymore. But don't confuse discipline with rigidity. It's not about denying emotion or pretending you don't feel temptation. It's about channeling it. Emotion is energy, discipline is direction. When you feel anger, you can destroy something or build something. When you feel fear, you can freeze or focus. When you feel tired, you can give up or push through. The disciplined mind uses emotion as fuel, not as an excuse. It doesn't suppress feelings, it harnesses them. This takes training, just like any physical exercise. At first, restraint feels unnatural. Your impulses scream for attention. Your body resists discomfort. But the more you push through, the quieter those voices become. The brain rewires itself through repetition. It learns that you're in charge, not your cravings, not your emotions, not your environment. You start to crave control instead of chaos, progress instead of pleasure. That's the transformation discipline creates, not overnight, but through consistency. Discipline is also emotional fitness. It's being able to hold tension without breaking, to stay calm when others panic, to stay kind when others provoke. Emotional discipline doesn't mean being numb. It means being precise. You can feel deeply without losing balance. You can be passionate without being reckless. You can be empathetic without being manipulated. That's the essence of emotional intelligence combined with discipline, the ability to act from strength, not reaction. Most people think they lose control because of external pressure, deadlines, relationships, stress. But the truth is, loss of control begins internally. You can't command your environment until you command yourself. You can't expect respect from others if you can't respect your own boundaries. Discipline is how you set that standard. When you hold yourself accountable, when you follow through on your promises even when no one's watching, you build self-respect. And self-respect breeds confidence. The quiet kind that doesn't need validation. Look at the people who are unshakable. They didn't get there by accident. They built that composure through thousands of small, disciplined moments. They practiced the pause. They controlled their tone when they wanted to shout. They finished the work when their mind said stop. They said no to distractions. Yes to consistency. Their calm isn't natural, it's earned. It's the result of training the mind to obey purpose, not impulse. And here's the paradox. The more disciplined you become, the freer you feel. Because now, you're not chained to moods or cravings or other people's chaos. You move with clarity. You decide when to speak, when to rest, when to act. You become the driver, not the passenger in your own life. Discipline isn't restriction, it's direction. It doesn't cage you. It focuses you. And focus is what creates results, growth, and peace. Start small. You don't have to transform overnight. Begin with one act of restraint a day. Don't respond immediately when you're provoked. Don't give in when your mind says, it's fine, skip it today. Stay consistent even when no one's watching. Each small victory adds weight to your mental muscle. Over time, those small victories stack into unbreakable strength. Discipline doesn't mean you never fall. It means you get back up faster each time you do. You won't always win the battle with impulse, but the fight itself makes you stronger. Every failure teaches you awareness. Every act of control reinforces your identity. Eventually, discipline becomes your default, not because life gets easier, but because you've become tougher. The world rewards those who can delay gratification, who can think before acting, who can endure discomfort without losing direction. Because in the long run, it's not talent that separates success from mediocrity, it's self-command. The person who can stay focused when others lose control always wins. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. And that bridge is built every time you choose strength over impulse. Every time you stay quiet when you could explode. Every time you keep your word when it's inconvenient. Every time you do what's necessary instead of what's easy. That's how you train your mind into a weapon. Calm, sharp, deliberate. And when you've built that kind of control, nothing and no one can move you off your path. Because the mind you've trained is stronger than anything that tries to break it. The world will never stop testing you. People will provoke you, situations will frustrate you, and life will hand you uncertainty when you least expect it. You can't control the storm, but you can control who you are inside it. Calmness is not something you find when life is peaceful. It's something you build in the middle of chaos. It's the ability to stand tall when everything around you shakes, to hold your ground when emotions pull at you, and to see clearly when others are blinded by reaction. That's what it means to build an unshakable inner world. Peace is not the absence of noise, it's the strength to remain centered within it. Most people live in emotional turbulence because they haven't built that center. Their inner world depends on outer conditions. If things go well, they're calm. If things go wrong, they collapse. But power belongs to those who can create peace regardless of circumstances. Imagine being so grounded that nothing external can dictate your internal state. Not rejection, not chaos, not uncertainty. That's the kind of power you can't buy, can't fake, and can't lose once you've built it. Calmness doesn't mean you don't feel emotion. It means emotion doesn't drown you. You still experience anger, sadness, fear, and frustration, but you become the observer, not the victim. You can watch your emotions rise and fall without getting lost in them. You can say, I feel angry, without becoming anger itself. That separation, that awareness is emotional mastery. When you can witness your emotions instead of being consumed by them, you've already won half the battle. Building that inner calm starts with awareness. You must first recognize what triggers your inner storms. Maybe it's people who disrespect you. Maybe it's uncertainty about the future. Maybe it's fear of losing control. Whatever it is, your triggers are your teachers. They show you where your power leaks out. The goal is not to avoid triggers. It's to become so emotionally stable that even when they appear, they can't move you. You observe them like waves passing through. You feel them, but you don't drown in them. Your calm is built in the small moments, not the big ones. It's built in how you respond to minor inconveniences, daily frustrations, or moments of impatience. When someone cuts you off in traffic, when plans change suddenly, when someone speaks rudely, those are your training grounds. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you strengthen your inner foundation. It's like adding another layer of armor around your core. And over time, that armor becomes impenetrable. People often think calmness is something you're born with, but it's a discipline. It's practiced, refined, and earned. You build it by sitting in silence instead of running from it. You build it by learning to breathe through discomfort instead of numbing it. You build it by refusing to let every emotion dictate your next move. The calm person isn't naturally detached. They've simply done the work to build emotional balance. When you're calm, you see everything differently. You don't react to insults. You analyze them. You don't get swept up in other people's energy. You regulate your own. You stop trying to control everything around you and focus instead on controlling yourself. That's the shift that changes your entire life. Because the moment you stop being controlled by the storm, you start influencing it. You set the tone. Your stillness becomes contagious. People begin to mirror your composure. And soon, what once overwhelmed you becomes something you can navigate effortlessly. The calm within the storm also comes from clarity, knowing who you are and what you stand for. When you have strong values, the noise around you loses power. You no longer react to every opinion because you're rooted in conviction. You don't need to chase validation because your self-worth isn't up for negotiation. Calmness grows from inner certainty. When you know your truth, you stop needing to prove it. You move from defense to direction, from reacting to leading. To build inner calm, you must also build trust in yourself. Because a person who doesn't trust their own judgment is always anxious. They overthink, second-guess, and panic under pressure. But when you've proven to yourself, through discipline, through consistency, that you can handle what comes, you stop fearing life. You start facing it with confidence. You develop faith in your ability to adapt, to rise, to rebuild. That's when calm becomes unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you know you can handle it. There's immense strength in silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of certainty. When you've built inner calm, you don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't rush to respond to rumors, accusations, or noise. You let time and truth speak for you, because you know that real power doesn't panic, it doesn't chase, it doesn't defend, and it doesn't overreact, it simply endures. That's what makes calmness so powerful. It disarms chaos. You'll notice that when you're calm, your perception sharpens. You start seeing opportunities in the middle of crisis. You begin understanding people instead of resenting them. You start solving problems instead of magnifying them. Calmness gives you clarity, and clarity gives you control. The storm outside may rage, but you operate from precision, not panic. And that precision, that steady decision-making under pressure, is what separates leaders from followers. But understand, this calmness doesn't mean isolation. It's not about withdrawing from life. It's about engaging with it differently. You can still love deeply, care passionately, and pursue boldly, but without losing yourself in the process. Inner calm allows you to give your best without burning out. It allows you to connect without absorbing others' chaos. It's what keeps your emotional energy clean. To build this kind of inner calm, you must protect your mental space like sacred ground. Be careful what you consume, the news, the noise, the opinions that drain your peace. Be mindful of who you allow access to your energy. You can't stay calm in constant chaos, so choose your environments wisely. Stillness grows in space, not in noise. Give yourself moments of silence, even just 5 minutes a day, to breathe, to center, to reconnect. The more you make peace a daily habit, the less control the storm has over you. The goal is not to avoid difficulty, it's to become unshakable through it. Because storms will come, people will test you, life will bend you in ways you didn't expect. But when you've built your foundation from within, nothing can truly break you. You'll bend, but you won't fall. You'll hurt, but you won't lose yourself. You'll cry, but you'll still move forward. That's what real power looks like. Not hardness, but groundedness. Calmness is the ultimate flex in a world addicted to chaos. It's a quiet defiance against the pull of negativity. It's your declaration that nothing outside you can control you anymore. When you reach that point, you become dangerous in the best way. Untouchable, balanced, centered. You stop fighting storms and start mastering them. You become the calm in the storm, and the storm itself starts to respect you, because in the end, the strongest person in the room is not the loudest. It's the one who can stay calm while everyone else loses control. That calm isn't passive. It's power contained. It's clarity under fire. It's grace under pressure. And once you've built that, you don't need to chase peace anymore. You are peace. At some point in your life, you have to decide what kind of power you want to hold. The temporary kind that comes from reacting, or the lasting kind that comes from mastering yourself. Because the truth is, every time you lose your temper, every time you let someone's words control your emotions, every time you allow chaos to dictate your choices, you give away your power piece by piece. And most people go their entire lives doing exactly that. They chase control over everything around them, but never learn control over themselves. But the ones who do, the ones who stop letting their emotions run the show, they move differently. They don't get provoked by noise, they don't crumble under pressure, and they don't need to prove who they are because they know. And that knowing, that unshakable self-command, is what separates power from performance. Self-control and emotional intelligence are not about being emotionless. They're about being emotionally sovereign. It means you own your emotions, they don't own you. You can feel everything deeply, but you decide what gets your energy. You choose when to speak, when to stay silent, when to walk away, and when to stand firm. That's not coldness. That's clarity. It's the highest form of intelligence because it gives you the one thing everyone else is chasing: peace. When you master yourself, people can't manipulate you, situations can't break you, failure can't define you, because you no longer live at the mercy of what happens. You live from a place of deliberate choice. You understand that storms are temporary, but strength is built in how you stand through them. You no longer chase control of the external world because you've already conquered the internal one. And that's the message I want you to take with you. Control is not about dominance. It's about direction. It's about guiding your emotions, your focus, your energy towards something meaningful. It's realizing that power isn't in how loudly you speak, but in how calmly you hold your ground. The world is full of people who are brilliant but broken, talented but undisciplined, loud but lost. Don't be one of them. Be the one who commands presence not through noise, but through composure. Be the one who listens more than reacts, who observes more than judges, who understands more than attacks. Be the one who has built such an unshakable inner world that even when life throws chaos your way, you remain centered, grounded, unstoppable. Because the person who masters their emotions doesn't just survive the storm. They become the storm. Calm, deliberate, powerful, and untouchable. And once you reach that level of control, you'll never have to chase respect again. You'll command it, quietly, effortlessly, permanently.